And we are in as the finale for Closest to the Win, part of a Hammercast production. Masters Week. We've been grinding all week. It's tonight. This is our big show. We've gone over a lot of stuff, a lot of analysis over the last couple of nights, going through hole by hole and talking about the model, what all's going to go into the model. This is it. This is our big show. And so we are going to get started. We're going to get right to what you guys are here for. Let's rock. Let's do this. But first and foremost, some introductions. We've got our degenerate gambler, Justin Hanson. How you doing, Justin?
Yep, doing great, man. Like I said, second night in a row here, ready to dig in.
Ready to rock. Okay. And then obviously we got our former PGA Club Pro, Drew Ward. How you doing?
Fantastic, man. We're finishing this bad boy up, and then we're heading into this thing. I'm bummed that there's not a par 3 tomorrow. I'm bummed that the par 3 contest is not happening.
Yeah. I don't. Why is that?
COVID, I guess. COVID ruins everything. Damn it.
We're gonna have a full tournament, but we can't do it for Wednesday par 3.
Right. Very important.
And of course, the guru himself looks like he left the golf course.
I did. And, I was going to let Justin have all the fun. So I was like, hey, you can stay at 12, and I'm just going to come back to my little mean green environment. I dug out the 1999 U.S. Open Payne Stewart shirt, and I'm ready to go.
Sounds good, Nick. We appreciate you. And we have a new guest. Well, we have a guest tonight. He's going to talk Euros, and this is actually our Hammercast UK correspondent, Joseph Russell. He does a lot of stuff over in the UK for Hammercast. He does everything from cricket to soccer to NFL football and now golf, and he talks all of it. He wins. He puts out DraftKings lineup optimals, and we're honored to have him as part of tonight's broadcast to talk about the Euros. Also, join us in our plays and fades. Our plays and fades are going to be epic tonight. Our outrights, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about our optimal lineups. We're going to go through just all kinds of good stuff tonight. So stay tuned. Don't leave. Watch the entire show because everything is going to be packed and jammed with information that we think is going to help you guys have a huge week. First and foremost, as you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching live, please do us a favor, do us a solid, give us a like, give us a subscribe. And once again, if you are watching on YouTube, how about putting a comment in the comment section on the YouTube channel? Who's going to win the Masters? And if you're first with that player, you're going to win an autographed photograph of that player. We had a winner last week with Jordan Spieth. If you want to go back-to-back and pick Jordan Spieth, get on here, hit the Jordan Spieth in your comment, and you'll be qualified. Or DJ or Rom or, Robert McIntyre. Anybody you want, put it on there, and you have a chance to win. Also, I want to remind everybody, our new league starts this week. You can search it right now for Closest to the Win. We're taking the first 50 entrants. It is a paid league. It's only $5. Come and compete against all of us. All of us are going to be in this league. We're all going to be competing and see how you do. And you may kick all our butts. And you know what? That's what we're hoping for because hopefully you're doing it with our information. And so anyway, we look forward to that. Now, I believe he's here. He comes and goes. It's 2 a.m. He's a trooper. He is a player, and he is Joseph Russell from Hammercast UK. How you doing, Joseph?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I don't know what's going on with the signal over here, but it's just kicked me out about 4 times. So if I disappear again, just leave me off. It saves the hassle. But yeah, good to be here. How you doing, chaps?
Pretty good. Right, glad you're here, man.
Yeah, man. Welcome.
Hey, we're really looking forward to having you around for the Ryder Cup, but give us an early breakdown. What do you think is going to happen with the Euros? First of all, is a Euro going to win this thing? And if they are, who's it going to be, and who are some of the Euros to watch? I know you keep up with all that stuff going across the pond there.
Yeah, I mean, is there a Euro going to win it? I'd like to think there is. I think Paul Casey's got a very good chance, and he's a steal at the price that he is on DK at the moment. Obviously, Lee Westwood has had a couple of good starts to his season this season. A bit of continuity, but he's not going to win it. Obviously, the big question mark is on Rory. There's a lot of people probably.
All right. Okay, so if he's able to get back, he's obviously having a little bit of a tough time in the UK at 2 a.m. Maybe at 2 a.m. someone is sopping up all the Wi-Fi. I don't know, but if Joseph can get back, we'll try to get him back on. And so, but the show must go on. Guru, what
Yes,
you
sir.
thinking, man? What you thinking?
Well, I'm a little nervous about. Exactly. I think he was getting to Rory is a lock to win, but we'll find out between today and Thursday what he's really got to say. I'm a little nervous about the weather, to be honest. I mean, looking back, I mean, the wind's been there a little bit, but the rain just looks like just a big giant question mark, and it's still only Tuesday night. So hopefully we can give it another, 24 hours before we really, try to plan out a strategy or exit strategy, as it were. But, the model itself, I'm just going to dive right into it. So it's got the 6 main components as normal. So the form component, just because the trends usually dictate that you have some immediate short-term good form. So normally I break it up into 2 or 3 parts, but this time I actually broke the form component into 4 parts. Basically, it's kind of a extremely short-term, medium long, and then just like an overall general how good you are. But I didn't put as much weight on the long-term picture just because it's a field full of elites. So that's there. This is one of those tourneys where there's a general lean towards some course history. So folks that have played it, the multiple times are going to get a little bit of a bump. Folks that have played it, more than once are going to get a little bit of a bump. But really, I take it in blocks because, with the course being redone in 2008, really it's nice that people kicked some butt and took some names before 2008. But I didn't go further back before 2008. So I've got it in 3 blocks. Basically about 4 years, 8 years, and then the overall picture. The odds component's really still there, but again, you just need to win. But again, it's the shorter odds that usually do pretty well. I mean, the last 5 years, it averages out to about 40-1. Last 10 years, it averages out to about 40-1. And I think in the last 10 years, it's basically just been 2 guys that were longer than 55. So really, 55 is going to be the top end number, and you kind of work your way down. So it's geared more towards win odds, and it's geared more towards top 10. Didn't really give a crap about make the cut because, there's 88 guys in the field, probably still be 55 or 56 guys that make the cut. I had a higher cut number in line. Last year it was even, and low 60s made it through. My initial stab was it was going to be +4. That's how much I thought it was going to play back the other way. But I'm going to give it another 24 hours to see if I revise that a little bit just because of the weather. But even if it hits to the +4, I still think it'll come back to maybe 55. So when you got 60% of the field making the cut, make the cut odds aren't really going to do anything for you. Then you've got the stats components as normal. Got kind of a hodgepodge of the, secondary stuff we sort of talked about yesterday. Your sand game a little bit, your scrambling, your proximity buckets. I put more of a lean. Actually, in the end, I put a slight lean more towards the par 4 than the par 5, but they're both pretty heavily weighted in the end. And then as far as the next tab over, I've got the more of the strokes gain type aspect to the stats component. So I've got a modified tee to green. The approach is still pretty heavy, but I've dialed up normally when they split it out with the regular ranking, it's, even thirds. So you've got, basically 33%, approach, 33% off the tee, and about 33%, around the green. I've dialed up the approach just a hair. I've dialed up the around the green just a hair. So the off the tee came back just a bit, but it's still, pretty heavily weighted. And what am I forgetting? Oh yeah, the comp courses. Just to not totally penalize somebody that hasn't played the course before, I took a pretty good stab at what I thought similar courses were that would, give you a little bit of a boost here. And just to run off a couple right quickly, just to let you know what I've got in there. Genesis is in there, so you got the Riviera. You've got the Century Tourney of Champions for, the Kapalua, and basically for the green complex a little bit. Wells Fargo plays for Quail Hollow, plays a little bit. And I've got a couple other doozies in there too, but a lot of the same ones that I'm sure people that are listening and really taking notes have probably seen others dial up. So we've got the same list, but how I counted it is where it's going to be different. I've got my own little hidden mix to put it together, and it sort of spit it out. And excited to talk about it and see how it shakes out. And hopefully we run pretty well, just like we did in November.
Awesome. Yeah, I read obviously. I read the sheet this morning when it came out, and we posted it on Twitter. And when you sent it, you sent something that was just kind of funny. The last 10 outings, the winner started after 11 a.m.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. I generally put little nuggets in the on the main page, and so the tee times are pretty interesting, because if you look at the last 10 winners, they all teed off after 11:04, and if you really break it down further, most of them teed off either in the 11 o'clock hour or the 1 o'clock hour. So not to say some trends are definitely made to be broken, but a lot of times history repeats itself. But if you look at all the guys teeing off in the 11 o'clock, you look at all the guys teeing off in the 1 o'clock hour, you can probably narrow it down, and a lot of guys teeing off in the 1 o'clock hour are higher up in the model, favorites on the board. And so if I had to pick one, if I was just picking based on tee times, I'm probably picking somebody in the 1 o'clock hour.
Guru, what about the 2 o'clock tee time? Is that still okay for this model?
That's a really good question. So that's why I kind of phrased it after 11, because I didn't really want to dive into to say, sorry, everybody at 2 o'clock is SOL, because it's right there.
Perfect.
But yeah, so we'll go with everybody, take a stab at everybody after 11. But it's a really interesting thing, because it kind of, it'll play a part in the weather too, because if you're going to go late on Thursday, you should go early on Friday. So it's really going to depend on when the whole Friday weather thing moves in and starts, and how bad it really is. So there may actually turn out to be a obvious advantage in the end, but I guess we'll find out, and we'll definitely tweet it, talk about it, get it out there tomorrow. So if we chase, but the model's got its favorites early, and the model's got its favorites late. So let's cracking.
Let's talk about those favorites. Sure. And let's jump into them. Just let's go through them. Start from number one, and give us why the model likes number one all the way through. Let's just go to the top 10, and then we'll do our plays and fades.
So when I built the model in November, and this is somewhat similar, but I took a couple of liberties switching, doing the time of year from November into now. But when I built it in November, Rom was 1 and JT was 2. And really based on how things were playing out at the time, JT probably could have been number 1, and maybe even should have been number 1. But, I was happy with how things turned out in November, but it actually flipped this go around, and I was actually kind of surprised. But a lot of the, if you read the trends article from today, a lot of the models actually based on some of the trends, because they really pan out. They pan out at a pretty high percentage, and I feel pretty comfortable, diving into them. The big separator really between Rom and JT is going to be the fact that JT, won the Players, 4 weeks ago, and that's normally one of the higher trends, is that you played fairly recently, and you've done something when you've played. You shake the rust off, which is great, but when you play, you're actually in some kind of good form. That's not to say Rom's not in good form, but there's a big difference between winning a pretty prestigious tourney and just, showing up and just, scooping top 20s. But hey, maybe he had his, wife on the mind, and maybe now that, she gave birth to the kid last week, that maybe, what we all hoped Rory would do when his wife had, his kid last year, that he hasn't seemed to been able to quite shake off yet. Maybe Rom will do it. Maybe this is the week he'll do it. Statistically, the stats are right there in line for both of them. The form as a whole is right there. It's just the little, nuances that separate them. Now, third was actually, Jordan Spieth, which is really interesting to me, because, he actually fits where DK really did him a disservice, but did us all a great favor, is by releasing the pricing really early. I think if they had waited until he had won, I think he'd been over probably 10K. He probably should swap with Xander, to be honest with you. So for me, he's probably 600, maybe as much as even $1,000 underpriced. So, but you line him up on paper, you play the, he won last week, which is great, but normally it's a nice sign in terms of the last 4 weeks, but normally I think Phil's the last one that did something the week before where it actually panned out pretty well, in the tourney. So, here's hoping that, he can break that not so favorable trend, but his form has been really good. I don't know that he's back all the way, but, he's back closer, and he's been in a long time. And if Tiger can come through here and whip it as a, aging old man, with still pretty good stats, I think Spieth can probably, do the same thing. So he's quite favorable, and he should be on your radar for sure. But splitting hairs, he was almost level with DJ. And they were probably tied for third, but, Spieth got the slight edge. But, DJ really hasn't played. He hasn't been in great form. And you start looking at his, strokes gained stats, his putting has kind of sucked, the last, 6-8 weeks. And, he's surprisingly not as sharp off the tee as you'd think. So, can he just wind up and just get it going out of nowhere? A lot of people come here, they like the course and they're able to just turn it on. But is he that guy? Maybe, maybe not. I guess we'll find out. You go a little further down the list, and probably the big surprise for me was Paul Casey was 5th in the model. No, I didn't expect him to.
That surprised me too. Yeah.
I didn't expect him to, be lower down, but the fact that he shot up there, but his form is really, pretty good. He's played the course, pretty well over the last, I think he's got 6 top 15s in his last trips here. I think he's got 6 top 15s in terms of the form, and the stats check out for him too, just based on the pretty good run of form he's been in. And if those are the, a lot of the main drivers of the model, as long as the rest of the basic stats check out, he's going to be, and they did, he's going to be higher up, on the board compared to everybody else. You start drifting down, you get to Bryson, which is great, but the big thing against Bryson is he really hasn't done supremely well here yet. I think his time is coming, but is this the year? I don't know. Could it be the year? Absolutely. I've been a big Bryson fader, I guess, for lack of a nicer way to say it. But, I kind of flipped the script about maybe, 2 months ago, maybe a little bit beyond that. And it seemed about the same time I started being willing to play him, he started to, maybe dial it down a notch and maybe realize that, he's got to dial it down a notch. He could still do what he wants to do. And maybe, the act's all for show, but he realizes he's got to dial it back just to, perform well. And he's done, fairly well. So, if you take out the course history, he's right there with everybody else too. And then, you drift down, Webb's up there, Roy's up there, Cantley's up there. And then the wild card, for me is Brooks. Brooks is the one that I'm really, everybody wants to be Tiger. Max Homa wants to be Tiger. Brooks wants to be Tiger. I could go down the list. Everybody wants to be Tiger. If Brooks could come in here and one knee, one leg this thing and get his own, incredible story and win, I'm sure he would love it. And, that would be the best, early wedding present he could get. But that one knee thing, man, I just don't know. I saw him stretching to read the greens, and the model seems to think he'll do okay. But this is where the model says one thing, and your brain and your eyes are going to say something else. Do you not play him? Do you play him a little? Do you play him a lot? Do you completely fade him? I don't know. His tee time's not bad. I mean, I definitely think he'll make the cut. But if he goes out and shoots a amazing 67 or 68, can he continue to put it back to back to back? He's a bit of a grinder, but if you watched enough of his tourneys this year, even when he was kind of shaking the rust off, it looked like that, when a couple of holes or shots, went awry, is he going to get his head out of his keister, so to speak, and get back to focus and just shake it off and bounce right back? I don't know. Rory's the wild card, again, if anybody could really, shake it off, but we've been waiting for Rory to shake it off for a while. It's not to say he won't do well. He geared up and, finished top 10 last year. I'm sure he could, gear up and finish the top 10 this year. But, as far as DraftKings go, they make the pricing, on point for a reason. They want you to have that juicy lineup of the 4, 5, or 6 guys that you really like and really make you sweat it. But, just because you've got 6 awesome studs in your lineup doesn't mean all 6 are going to get you enough points to take down a GPP, and whether it's a, Masters or whether it's a, the Puerto Rico Open, at some point you're going to have to take a flyer on somebody down low that, not anybody else is going to like, and you're going to have to find a reason to like it and take it. I mean, if you look at the model's going to tell you that, you've got to take probably, even on the high side, you've got to probably find somebody under maybe 5% owned and put them in your lineup and cross your fingers. That's the guy that goes off. And, the last 4 years, that's what's happened, and it'll probably happen again. And it'll be the guy that you probably don't have. And that's okay. The important thing is that the core of 3, 4, 5 guys that you have, finish in the top 10 of the board, get you enough points. And, the guy that you take the flyer on, gets you enough to make you pretty competitive and cash something pretty nice. Hopefully you take down a GPP. That's what we're here for. More or less, that's the top 10, but I'll save the 11 to 88 for the tiers when we get there.
Awesome. Well, speaking of tiers,
that was good.
Let's do this, man. You ready to go straight into plays and fades?
I'm ready, man.
All right. I've been waiting for this. We are going to add a play to 9 and 8K. And this is going to be a lot of fun. I've already got my 3 and my fade, and so I'll kick it off, and then we'll go to pro, followed by Justin, and we'll let Guru go last. I am playing, and they're in my overall player pool. And before we hang up, I'm going to tell you about how I'm setting up my GPPs. I couldn't get my player pool down to below 30 players, but typically I like to be in that 20 range. Anyway, I am going to play Jon Rahm. He's number 2 in our model. In all the categories that mean the most in the last, 50 rounds. He's number 1 in greens and regulation. He's number 2 in par 5s. He's number 8 in driving distance. He's number 13 in approach. And he's 31 in scrambling. And by the way, my model for myself, and obviously I'm marrying the 2 models, is 35% greens and regulation, 25% driving distance, 15% approach, 15 scrambling, and 10% par 5 strokes gained. And I know that what his model has a whole lot more than that, and so I'm just balancing off of that. But for this purpose, Jon Rahm, I'm going with Bryson DeChambeau, and it's just I just can't ignore the distance, and I can't ignore the par 5 scoring. And those who dominate the par 5 scoring are usually in the final few groups. And the fact that he's gonna kill the par 5 scoring, I've got to have him in my play. And JT, he's number 1 on our model. Why wouldn't I have him in? And so those are the 3 10K plays for me. And the fade is Rory. And he's going to burn me one of these times, but he's been the right fade every single time. And so he's still overpriced for how he's playing. Okay. I love Rory. Don't yell at me. I think he's a great golfer. He could be one of the best in the world. He's not now, but the biggest thing that kills me on Rory is the fact that he is, let me find him here. There he is. He's 75th in the field in scrambling. He's not hitting the greens. And if he's not going to be able to scramble and make par on some of those, then I just don't want him in my lineup at that price point. Once again, they refuse to come down his price. He's 10-2. And so for that reason, I'm out. And let's go ahead and let's go to pro, man. What do you got?
Yeah, I guess I'll just copy basically what you said here. Jon Rahm, in my opinion, maybe it's not if, it's when with this guy, when he's going to break out and win. This golf course, his length, his ball striking, there's really nothing you can ding him in any category you look at. Maybe there is something, he just had a kid, who the hell knows. I know when I had a kid, I had to sleep a lot, so that's not great. But I will also go with Bryson. It's not when Bryson. It's not if Bryson wins it's a Masters. It's when his game, the way the course sets up right now, it's just, can he get it together? However, you assume that he tears up par 5s. Last year when he got cocky and said, "Well, the Augusta's really a par 67 for me." Well, that shit didn't go real well for him. So you hope that I think he can hone it in to a point where he can kind of step back and not try to go crazy on everything all the time. I mean, his 85% still probably the longest on tour. But I do think he's going to have a good week. And then, as you said, Justin Thomas. I mean, Justin Thomas has improved every single year he's played at Augusta National. We talked about the other day, last night, it might have been, how this golf course will favor a guy that can hit the ball high, hit a cut, and that's what Justin Thomas likes to do. It hasn't necessarily gone right for him, but this is a golf course that I definitely think he can win at. And I'm also going to fade Rory. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Rory came out and competed this week. I mean, he has the game to do it. But again, at what point in this range are we going to fade Xander Schauffele for Rory at this point? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, or is it going to be, are we going to fade Dustin Johnson for Rory at this point? Like,
Right.
To me, I just don't think I can do that.
If
Right.
Rory should be 9-8, 9-7 based on his play in the last 50 rounds. That's where he should be. DraftKings refuses to take him down. And you know what? I'll keep fading him, and I'll keep winning because he's not worth paying that price. I love him, but he's not worth paying that price. That's all it is. It's price. Guru.
Well,
are we going to have a trifecta here? We're having this is crazy. It's our master show, and we're having two guys coming in and going out, and I apologize for that, but we're going to get you, and we'll keep moving.
All right. So no, not going to have a trifecta.
Okay, here we go. We got some.
Yeah,
I'm glad. I'm glad that we don't have a trifecta, actually.
So I could sit here and spit stats, and I'll probably do a little bit of that. But as we go through all these plays and fades, I'm going to try to blend maybe the model with some stats, maybe some trends, and kind of make it a little interesting because I just didn't want to take all the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. So the history and taking it the model too, the model suggests that basically one of the two 11K guys will do well. Doesn't mean the other one's going to completely suck, but it suggests one will do well. So basically now, we'll go kind of point by point. So, you've got DJ and you've got Rahm. Now, I know the tourney was in November, but, returning champs, right? So the last 15 defending champs, 2 missed the cut, 2 finished 41st to 60th, 5 finished 21st to 40th, 4 finished 11th to 20th, and 2 finished 1st to 10th. And in case you were wondering,
are you winding up to fade DJ?
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll get there.
Keep going.
So Spieth went second in 2016 after winning in 2015. And then Tiger went third in 2006 after winning in 2005. That's it. Everybody else has sucked. I don't need the guy. If I'm going to pay, $11,500 for DJ, I need to be pretty convinced he's going to hit in the top 10. Does he love the course? Absolutely. Is he in decent enough form? Absolutely. Can he make me completely look like a moron in 72 hours? Absolutely. But if I'm going to choose between Rahm and DJ, I'm going to trust the model. I'm going to take Rahm and I'm going to fade DJ. And so basically I've lined out my case for feeding DJ. So now my case for Rahm. So he just, you could split hairs with me as to how I drew up the course history, but he's basically just outside of the top 20%. Otherwise, he's a solid dark green top 10%, with only 88 people. It's basically 9 guys, but basically he's in the top 9 of every category I have except for course history. And he's just outside the top 18. If I put him inside the top 18, he's going to catch my eye all day long and I'm going to take him. But trying to find a good period of time. Now, the rounds aren't exactly the same, but the marker I used for all of these were the last 50 days. That takes me back far enough to get a lot of the juicy tourneys in there, the bigger ones they're going to play. Now, most of the guys are going to have somewhere between probably 12 and 20 rounds. So, like I said, it's not quite a rounds comparison. It's just a period of time. But over the 50 days, Rahm was 7th off the tee, 12th in approach, 29th around the green, and 47th in putting. It's pretty well rounded, and if he catches a little bit of steam with the putter, it's great. And every time I talk about Rahm, I always talk about the BMW. I talk about the Memorial and the places he kicked butt and took names last year. The wild card is if the rain comes in and completely softens this up, it probably changes that narrative a little bit. But I built and strategized everything based on the course and the model and whatnot, and I'll make subtle tweaks. But I can't see myself not playing Rahm because he was pretty near the top. So because he was lying pretty much neck and neck with JT, I'm going to take JT as well. JT is number 1 in the model. He's the only guy in the model that, is top 20% in all the major categories I have. And he fit the trends article. I mean, the only thing that you might want to shake off, my 2 concerns would be, the fact that he, doesn't have the 2 top 10s here yet. His form has been progressively better and he's due. And I really like the way he won the Players. He still had that, completely off round, but he still put together 54 holes and just, kicked pretty good butt. That may come back to burn him again here because I just don't know if he'll have that luxury unless he, rips off, successive 65s or whatnot. But, he's still 3rd in approach over the last 50 days, 17th around the green, 59th in putting. If I like, Rahm with, 47th in putting, I can't really not like, a DJ at 59th. The only thing that scares me is the 62nd off the tee. But again, everybody's got a little something wonky going on. And, I trust him. He fits the trends. And, if the history plays out like I continue to think it does, I'm going to do it. Now, the real question is, who do I go for number 3? They're all pretty equal and they're all pretty much on paper. So the one thing, the separator was I looked at the last 50 days and that was the big separator for me. So when you look at off the tee, Bryson was third, and you've got Xander at 53rd, and you've got Rory at 35th. So there's kind of an advantage off the tee for Bryson. Approach game's all kind of similar. You get 21st for Bryson, you got 25th for Xander, and you got 29th for Rory. I'm really splitting hairs there. The short game around the green, you got 37th for Bryson, which I was kind of surprised. You got 28th for Xander, which is kind of what I expected. And Rory was right there at 40. They're all, again, you're splitting hairs. But the separator for me actually turned out to be the putting. So Xander was 52nd, Rory was 60th, and Bryson was 18th. So Bryson is my third guy.
So we did have the trifecta close to it. We all had Ron, Bryson, and Thomas. But the fade was different.
Almost, yeah.
And I don't mind that fade. I like that one. We'll see. Hey, Justin. Just in time.
Yeah.
And speaking of just in time, 10Ks, we all went, and all three of us had the three same 10K likes, but we had a little bit different fade. Let's go with you, buddy.
Okay, so my first one, Justin Thomas. I assume that was probably one of your guys.
Yep.
He's
number one in our model. It's impossible not to take him.
Yeah, I mean, nothing more needs to be said. Second, John Rahm. Number 2 in the model. I got a good stat on Rahm. So of all the players that have played at least 16 rounds ever that have not won the tournament, he is second all time in shots gained to I believe Lloyd Mangum. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name.
What have you been doing? You've been on Google?
Yeah, that's
deep diving, Justin. I like it.
Yeah, so that's my stat on Rahm. And for my third guy, I'm a roll with Brooks. I tell you what, he's
not in 10K. He's not a 10K.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. So then I'll take Bryson.
Oh, that's the trifecta.
I'll take Bryson. 3 for 3.
4 for 4, actually.
Like a Xander Schauffele green jacket on Sunday, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what it means. Book it.
All right.
And who's your fade?
I'll fade Rory once again.
All right. Three Rory fades and 1 DJ fade. The guy that won last year and has been faded as well. And you know what, Guru? I actually considered it. I have not liked his form coming in. And so it was between him and Shaw. It was between Schauffele and Rory. DJ and Rory is what it came down to.
But you know what's interesting is that Rahm, Rory, and Xander all play together.
I know. What time do they tee off?
Oh, it's late morning. 10:42.
That's just before 11. That's the last 10 winners have all teed off after 11 on Thursday.
Well, there they go.
10 years.
That might be close enough.
That's how I'm picking all my plays.
At least my outrights.
All right. So we're going to go straight to 9Ks. And once again, I apologize. Joe's not here. We'll have plenty of Euros in this thing.
Well, Doc, I mean, if he's still listening, he took Rahm, JT, and Rory. So at least that's what he put in the chat.
Yeah. Okay. Rahm, JT, and Rory. So we knew he was going to have Rory in there. And you know what? He'll be a big fan of All Falcon Day because he loves him some Rory. So let's just go straight to 9K and let's start with Pro.
Yeah, so 9K, 9 and 8K become very interesting, don't they? Lots of good players in both categories.
Very tough.
I'll start out with Patrick Cantley. He's had good form here. T17 last year, tied for 9th in 2019. He plays well in major championships. He plays well at tough golf courses. He was also T3 at the PGA in 2019. He's hard not. His game just seems really complete and seems like he could definitely win this week. I'll also go with Colin Morikawa. I really like Colin Morikawa this week just based off of the fact he's the best iron game, the best iron player in the entire tour right now. So for me, those two, it's basically Colin Morikawa is to that point. It's based off of how he putts. It's really how it's going to be. He's going to give himself multiple opportunities. It's just hard for me to not pick him. And then I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth. anything besides coming home with a green jacket this week is disappointment in my opinion. He's ready. It's go time. If you look at his statistics the last 3 months, it's better than it was when he was the number one player in the world back in 2017. He's doing pretty much everything right. He's actually leaving strokes out there. He's primed for this golf course. We know he loves this golf course. I know that's a shocker that I picked Jordan Spieth, but that's my third guy. The guy I'm fading is Brooks Koepka. And I know some of you on the panel may like Brooks Koepka. I mean, the dude's out here looking like a goddamn ninja trying to put his ball marker down.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, in the fact that he talks about how his knee is, hurts when he's walking down the hill. Well, this isn't the golf course for that. Although Pete Cowan says he's striping the ball, he may or may not be. But to me, this is not a golf course to be having a knee injury on. I have to fade him just base health wise. He could miss the cut here. I wouldn't be completely shocked. I wouldn't be completely shocked if he had a good week, but he's going to be my fade in the 9K range.
All right, Justin, what about you? 9K.
Well, Morikawa was my first guy for, ball striking. Like I said, if he putts, he'll be right in the mix. He hit on him, so I'll move on to my next guy, Webb Simpson.
Surprise.
He's top 10 in the model. He's 8th shots gained around the green. He's 13th in shots gained putting. He's 6th in driving accuracy. I'll take some Webb. I'll take some Webb right here. And model loves him, which makes me feel even greater about him.
Good deal.
And my third guy, I will roll with Brooks. I feel like maybe he has been sandbagging us a little bit, and he's coming out. He feels disrespected. He's got something to prove. So, I'm cool to take him at 92. I'm good with that. So give me Brooks here.
All right.
My fade is Patrick Reid. He just is just on form alone is not that he's been playing bad.
No, it's fair.
But he's not where he would like to be coming into it. And that's enough for me with how many good players are in this 9K range that I'll take a pass on Reid.
Okay, I get it, and I'm gonna echo some of that stuff. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and run in, and we'll let Guru close it out. I am also going to be the third in a row to take Morikawa, and the only Pro summed it up pretty good. The guy is an amazing ball striker. He's going to be on the fairway. He's going to hit the greens. If he can putt, he can be in contention. The only thing I worry is that he's not very long off the tee, and he's going to have those longer irons versus those shorter irons, and that's okay. He's proven he can do it. He's proven he could step up to big tournaments and big events, and he's already won a major. And so I'm all in on Morikawa at his price. I'm also going with Brooks Koepka, and the reason I'm going with Brooks is because I still believe he's one of the most talented golfers in the world, and in the last 24 rounds in this field, he is 4th overall in par 5 scoring. And I put a lot on par 5 scoring. And I know par 4 is just as important because it's got to be bogey avoidance and some other things there. He's not great in scrambling. He's 69th in scrambling in this field. But when you're hitting the par 5s and you're hitting 50, he's top 15 in greens and regulation, and he's top 12 in driving distance, and he's top 18 in approach. And so he's way up there in all of the categories except scrambling. And it could come back and bite me, but for his price, he's at the low 9s. I think his price is that way because of the injury. I think when he's in full form, he should be at least high 9s or low 10s.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. And so
I thought
the guy is Jordan Spieth. The model loves Jordan Spieth. I love Jordan Spieth. In this field, he's 2nd in approach last 24 rounds, and he's hitting his irons pure. He's 6th in par 5s. He's 13th in greens and regulation. he's not the longest guy out there, but he's right there in the top third. He's 37th in driving distance, and you know what? He's 27th in scrambling. So he's doing everything well, and he knows that he's a horse for this course, and his confidence is the highest it's been since 2015. And so give me Jordan Spieth at 9,400. Once again, that was a misprice because that was, done a couple of weeks ago before, he's continued his peak upwards.
Yep.
And my fade also is Jordan Reid. And I know the helicopter, and we talked about that and all those fun things. But Jordan Reid,
Patrick Reid.
Tight ends, man.
Patrick Reid.
No tight ends in golf, man.
But Jordan, Patrick Reid is really good at scrambling. He's 28th, but he has to be because he's 57th in greens and regulation. He's 69th in driving distance. He's 52nd in approach, and that's the last 24 rounds. And so 36th in par fives. When he gets it going, he can go. But for me, I just think there's other options that I like better in the 9K range. And so we'll wrap that up with Guru.
Well, you guys have left me all kinds of places I could go here. This ought to be fun. So he did say helicopter. That means it's 2 shots, buddy. 2 shots. So I'm going to start with Spieth. We've beat the dead horse to the ground, but he's got the course history. But what I'll throw out would be the stats. So the last 50 days, 7th in approach, 27th around the green, 15th in putting, and off the tee was still even 37th. I'll roll with that, especially with the course history. And, I think that even goes back to right before. It's either the week before or the week after Phoenix, but it's close enough where it's got enough of the good stats in there. So he's numero uno. So I'm going to ride with Webb as number 2. So the only thing that bugs me, I wish Webb had played a little bit more in the last 4-6 weeks. He doesn't really have a whole lot of rounds, but still, when you look at the last 50 days, his game is pretty well rounded. He's first around the green, which I liked, 27th in putting. Everyone knows Webb can putt. He's 39th in approach and 28th off the tee. At some point, he's going to piece it all together and just have some really great week here. Again, is this the week? I don't know, but at 9,000, I'm willing to find out. So then now we get to number 3. It gets really interesting here. So now you start to get a little strategic and try to see who you like. But if I've kind of tipped my hand a little, I play the trends, I play the history, and I play, the things that make sense because I think the trends of the history actually work themselves out. So number 3 for me is Patrick Reid. So he's won the Masters. He's already won this year, and his game is still pretty well-rounded over the last, 50 days. 10th in putting, 44th around the green, 27th in approach, 33rd off the tee. He plays some Euro. He plays some tough courses. I think he can get around. And if his driver's wonky, he's one of the few people I trust to find a way to get it up and down and make some ridiculous birdie putt. So those are my quick 3 plays. Now we get to the fade. Now it gets really super strategic, and I'm going to shock the world by telling you I'm going to fade Colin Morikawa.
I knew that was coming. I
felt it.
So, and it's mainly because he's 9,600. There's guys I like just above him, and there are guys that I like just below him. It's dangerous as hell to fade him because over the last 50 days, he's first in approach, and he's 11th off the tee. So if his ball striking is just balls on, for lack of a better way to say it, it really won't matter how bad the rest of his stats are. But I'm going to take a flyer that maybe he has an off week, and that 60th around the green and 63rd in putting over the last 50 days is kind of true to form, and he can't really improve on that. So Morikawa is my fade.
I like it. And so we did get a comment. Pro's the only one with any love for Cantley.
Oh, I love.
We have love for Cantley, but you can only pick so many players, and so the fact that we have him in there is great. I thought about him. He was a split between him and Morikawa for me. But Morikawa, I just love the fact that he throws darts, and because of that, I put him in there, and he's in my overall player pool. Reid is going to be the fun one to watch because I'm not a big fan of Reid, and you're either team Reid or you're not.
I love what Patrick does for golf. It's just a constant.
Because he's polarizing. People love him or they hate him, and I don't really hate him. I can.
And he's playing with Daniel Berger, who has been known, played with him before. I remember him hawk-eyeing him, picking up loose impediments around his ball the last time they played together. So you just love to see it. I think it's good for golf. Patrick Reid's a bulldog, too. I wouldn't be surprised if he competed.
Right.
I'm on Team Reid, damn it. All Falcon Day.
So let's go ahead and jump into 8K. This is the one that I really struggled with because I really like a lot of 8K players, and I think ultimately the winners can come from 8K. And even though we got the model the way it is, Ryan goes, Reid is the Tom Brady of golf. He knows how to bend the rules. That's great. That's great. So I am going to start with Berger in 8K, and in our model, just absolutely loves Berger, and so as a matter of fact, here, I've got the last 24 rounds in my model. He's top 12. In rank. I love him because he's 11th in greens and regulation overall. He's 24th in approach, 34th in distance, 16th in par fives, and 33 in scrambling. There's nothing weak about his game, and I actually think he should be a 9K player based on his form. And so, give me some Daniel Berger. I like Cam Smith a lot. He knows this course. He's a scrambling fool when it comes to this course in the short game, and Cam Smith. At $8,200 at the bottom of the 8K range, here's a guy that's the top 20 in par 5 scoring, top 14 in scrambling. He's in the top 40s in all the other categories. The only one he's not is 64th in greens and regulation. But because he's such a good scrambler, he gets away with it. And so he may or may not – that's a polarizing pick because he may or may not get away with it with those greens and the elevation and all those things at Augusta. And so, that's one of those things to take into consideration, but I'm taking the bet on it. And then we got, I'm going with Fitzpatrick. I like Fitzpatrick a lot. The model likes him. And I mean, he doesn't do anything poor, and he's been on this track before. And I just think that this is the kind of course that he can do very well in. And so I'm all over some Fitzpatrick, and I'm fading. And it's too bad Joe's not here because I'm fading Fleetwood again. I think he's always overpriced. I think he's a good player, and when he does put it together, he can be really, really good. I just haven't seen it consistently. And so, the mere fact that he's not been consistent, he's great scrambler, though. He's 9th in the field in scrambling, but he has to be because he's almost 60th in greens and regulation. He's 30th in driving distance. He's 44th in approach. And so nothing really impresses me. He's a good player. When he gets streaky, he's really good. But I just haven't seen it, not enough to put him in there. And so Tommy Fleetwood is my fade for 8K. Justin, you want to go?
Yeah, so going right after you, I actually have the 3 same plays you had. I have a different fade, but I love Cam Smith. I mean, I think he's 7th in putting average, he's 7th in 1-putt percentage, and he's 3rd in overall putting average. And I think with the way his irons have been too, and he's going to be in the right spots around the green. I think his putting is going to make a difference for him this week. At 8,200. I'm in. He's one of my outrights. I love Cam Smith. He'll be in the majority of my lineups. Second, you went over Berger. I think, like I said, he could easily be a 9K guy. His form's great. He sets up great for this course. I'm with you on Berger and Fitzpatrick at 8K. I mean, bottom,
price.
He's at just under 10 points per DraftKings dollar, and I think he's in the top 7 or 8 in the field. And I look at that a lot, points per dollar. That's how I want to build.
Exactly.
So getting to my fade is Lee Westwood.
Didn't you? Aren't you betting him to miss the cut?
I did.
You got against Lee, man. That guy's been playing good.
250 to miss the cut. So at 8,800, just DraftKings alone, I think he's way too expensive.
With the Masters app, you can watch every shot and just root your ass off against him, dude.
Oh man,
that's going to be electric. Just rooting against Lee Westwood.
Yeah, I don't dislike Lee Westwood. I think he's overpriced, and I think he's been running hot, and that's going to dry up. So it could be this week.
Joe is so he's just going to forget how to play and how to hit those fairways and greens. Joe is probably watching this saying, they're fading Rory, they're fading Fleetwood, they're fading, Westwood.
He can't defend himself here now.
That's hilarious. Believe me, we'll be hearing about it in about 4 hours.
If Pro fades Fitzpatrick, we're in trouble because you just have knocked out 3 Englishmen in the 8K range, and that's awful.
I don't want to do it to my man.
Speaking of Pro, let's go 8K, bro.
Yeah, so a guy that I really don't understand why he hasn't been on more radars is Tyrrell Hatton. I'm going to go with Tyrrell Hatton. That should make Joseph somewhat happy, right? I really like Tyrrell Hatton's game. I think he's just super solid. He hasn't actually had much success around Augusta, but I think his game kind of sets up for this golf course. I like him at 8,900. Victor Hovland.
I like him too. I think he's a great player. I just like some of the other guys better. Yeah.
I didn't. Victor Hovland's a name that I'm all in on taking. Just based off of he's just a fantastic ball striker. We talked about it last night. He had tied for 32 as an amateur in 19. Tied for 13 in the U.S. Open. He plays hard golf course as well. Just what he's made to do. That's the way he plays. I like Victor Hovland a lot. I think he's also a guy flying under the radar in lots of people's minds.
Yeah, including me. I'm not. I mean, I've got him in my player pool, but I'm the biggest homer alive for Hovland, and I don't have him in my top 3.
Yep. No. And then I'll take Matthew Fitzpatrick. So he is a guy that I like. Again, to the same tune. He's had a top 10 here in 2016. He's made 5 of 6 cuts here. He had a 9th at the Players. He's also a guy that tends to play difficult golf courses as well. He's a guy that shows up. My fade's going to be Lee Westwood as well.
Great pro.
And it's not – he's just played a lot of golf recently, and he's played a lot of good golf.
Who's on the bag?
His son. His son's on the bag this week, but he didn't even play in the 2019 and 18 Masters, I don't think. I'm not even sure his game qualified him at that point. So,
I don't think it's it.
So again, Lee Westwood's been playing really well, but a lot of golf, if you think about it, he's in a lot of stressful golf. He's been right there and not been able to get it done. And at some point, just that's a lot for a guy his age. I like Lee's game. You would think his little soft chicken wing cut would be perfect around here. I just don't see it.
Well, all right. So we got 3 Brits all being faded, and it's going to leave it to Guru. Guru won't be doing that. He won't hurt Joe. I promise you.
No.
Let's go, Guru.
I'm a nice guy. So, numero uno, I'm going to play Daniel Berger. The form is pretty just damn solid compared to the field. Even when you break it up into the 4 groups, he was top 10. So, you play him for the form, and then you look at the last 50 days, 6th off the tee, 20th in approach, 58th around the green, and 34th in putting. The biggest difference between him and, say, Morikawa is Berger's got slightly more better recent form, and basically he's a better putter. Otherwise, they pretty much have the same identical profiles coming in. But that's why I'm going to play him versus not. Number 2, we've beat, Cam Smith into the ground, but his short game is pretty awesome. And you look at the last 50 days, he's 10th in approach, 10th around the green, 4th in putting, and he's still got that 61st off the tee like JT. So if I'm going to play JT, with the wonky off the tee, I'm going to play Cam. And, Cam's got the better profile underneath. Number 3, I'm going to play Matthew Fitzpatrick. The form is Berger-esque, just pretty solid. He's top 10 in all the 4 categories I've got. He's 10th off the tee, so he's got the driver working. He's 19th around the green, which is great. He's 5th in putting. His approach game is the thing that's off. It concerns me slightly, but, for that price point at 8,100, I'll take the 54th. So those are my 3. So similar to the 9,000 range, who do you fade and why? So the scary thing about the 8,000 is that the guy that I want to fade is 1st off the tee and 1st in putting both over the last 50 days. That's a big time fade right there. But when your bread and butter, your approach game is 71st, and then, you're around the green is 65th, and I'm looking for a reason to fade you. And again, I like guys above you and I like guys below you. Mr. Sanjay, I'm going to fade you.
Oh, Sanjay.
Sebastian.
Our Korean followers are up in.
I'm not helping the foreign audience. I know I'm not. I'm really not.
I mean, the
We
foreign
couldn't fade
audience
one
is
American.
up in arms.
You know, if you're off the tee and your putting game is so elite, you have to keep that there to offset the weaker part of your game. I agree. His approach game and his around the green game could, come up, but I think he's more likely to have his approach game come up and his, tee game and his putting game go south. So almost, he's about the same, if not even slightly worse. He might have one good.
Did you watch him navigate this course in November?
It's March or it's April now.
I don't fault you for
hey, I will tell you this, Guru. I will tell you this. You and I are tracking so closely this week, it's scary. M is not in my 30-player pool. And there's a few others that are in my player pool, and we've already who else is not single one of us put down as a play or fade that I'm surprised, and because he's not in my player pool at all, and that's Tony Finau.
Oh. Yeah, I'm gonna have some outright money. For the record, I'll have outright money on Tony. I'll 100% have outright money on Tony. He's not in my lineup, but Tony Finau, all he does is finish runner-up here or finish runner-up in majors. He's eventually going to get it done. You're right. I love Tony Finau, though. I don't know. He doesn't. Seems like he's not great in your model.
Last 8 rounds have not been kind.
Yeah. No, that's just not a good precursor to come in here and
think of this. Think of this crazy stat. Rory hasn't shot under par in his last 5 opening rounds of major championships. So the last 5 majors, he has not shot under par in the first round. What he's done is he's come back and backdoor top 10s because that's what Rory's kind of become the last few years. But that's a crazy statistic that he hasn't shot under par at all in the last 5 major championships in the opening round.
So what I hear you saying is to put a first-round leader bet on him tomorrow or Thursday. Got it.
Correct. Exactly. Everything you have, the house, the mortgage,
college funds.
Yep, exactly. The piggy bank, break it open, take it to Coinstar.
Well, we're going to go to the 7Ks, and I don't know about how you guys feel, but the 7Ks was by far the easiest for me to just boom, 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 3 quick pencils. It was so simple for me, and the fade was pretty easy for me as well. And the first one I'm going with is none other than Sergio Garcia. He's built for this course. His last 24 rounds in scrambling, he's 5th, which surprised me when I saw that. He's 2nd in this field for par 5 scoring. Okay, he's 16th in driving distance. And he's a respectable 37th of approach and 46th in greens and regulation. No real weakness for this course. He's $7,900. You saw how well he played at match play, and I just believe that he's got the game for this course. And at that price point in the 7K range, it was the easiest no-brainer of the day for me. I'm following that up with Casey, and the reason I love Casey is, number one, how high he is in our model. And then when you look at the numbers, he doesn't have a bad part of his game, and he's in form right now. And at $7,700, he's top 5 in our model. So that's enough reason alone. A top 5 guy in a $7,700 range, I'm in. I can't not be. But for my model on recent form, the measurements that I gave you, Paul Casey is 7th in greens and regulation. Perfect. He's 7th in scrambling, so if he doesn't hit him, he knows how to make par. He's top 31 in driving distance. He's 17th in approach, 35th in par 5 scoring. Give me all the Paul Casey I can get in the 7K range. And my third 7K guy is Adam Scott. Now, I know he hasn't had the best form, and he putts with a wooden log. And
he's the champion.
But he knows this course. And you know what? He actually plays very well he's been playing very well in majors. But in this field right now, he's 9th in driving distance. He's 32 in par 5 scoring. He's top 40 in approach, 48th in greens and regulation, and he's $7,600. Once again, a guy with that pedigree, that kind of history on that course. At $7,600, I'm going to have some Adam Scott. I'm also going to have some Adam Scott in an outright bet as well, but I just can't pass on that. Those were 3 easy picks for 7K. I'm fading Molinari.
This dude hates Molinari. Like, I'm sure he's a nice guy. Like, why the hell do you hate him so much? You fade him every time you play. You tease it up.
He doesn't.
Every time you tease it up, you fade him.
He doesn't win. He's 66th in driving distance. He's 61st in greens and regulation. He's 40th in par 5 scoring. His best category is scrambling at 25. He's ranked 25th in the field, and I just
just give me a hard time.
I know, but but he's my fade, and he is, he's my third Euro. I'm fading.
Man, that's why
Joseph dropped off.
Yeah, for sure. Attack of the Euros, man.
I know. Ryan just posted Garcia, Scott, and Homa, and he's fading Harris English. I get that. Harris English, I love Harris English, but I just don't think this is the course for him. And Adam Scott can get it going out of nowhere, world-class player. I totally agree with that. And you'll never see him in the low 7s again.
That's fine. Dude can't make 63-foot putts at times. I mean, I'm fine with what you guys are saying, but
all right, we'll go straight to your 7Ks.
Well, no, I mean, I don't have any problem with Adam Scott. I'm just saying, like, the dude looks like he's putting with the half of a plate from the kitchen. I mean, what the hell is? I mean, you can't tell me you're confident in that from any distance. I'll go Sergio as well. I mean, again, form's been good. Outside of making a 47, 2 years ago, he's played this golf course somewhat well. He does have a green jacket. I will take Sergio a T9 to players as well. Abraham Answer hasn't been brought up. I mean, he had a T13 last year. His last 3 events outside of match play, which is hard to dictate, where you finish. It's basically impossible outside of when you get to the Sweet 16 or the round of 16, rather. He's at a 23rd, 22nd, 18 in the last 3 events. I mean, he's just kind of like a guy that gets around. Like, that's what he does. He's gonna keep the ball in play. I really think the last week, the triple bogey he kind of had things going, and then that hit. The guy that you guys haven't mentioned at all, and I'm kind of surprised, is Bubba Watson. I love me some Bubba Watson at $7,800.
Nice.
2-time winner.
I saw a really good story on him today. Really good.
What, that he's all crazy?
Yeah, he basically said that he was thinking about taking his own life at one point. And,
I don't want to say
very
crazy,
sensitive.
but no, he's very sensitive. If anybody ruffles a bag of chips, he's all fired up.
Gosh.
But no, I mean, but listen, there's something like Nick said earlier. There's something to guys that play this golf course well, and especially left-handers. And Bubba Watson actually played pretty well in match play. If we remember, he got a really tough draw in his group, and he played well. So I will take Bubba Watson. So Sergio, Bubba, and Abraham Answer. And I'm just going to fade Matt Wolff. I mean, let's keep the chalk rolling, boys.
Yeah, why not? There. Yeah.
I mean, he looked okay in match play, right? Like he have Spieth, who just vomited all over himself down the stretch. He did win his first match, missed the cut here last year. I'm waiting for Matt Wolff to show me a reason that I shouldn't be fading him, and he hasn't done that so far. And I feel like a lot of us have been fading him, and we're okay with probably rock and roll and moving forward.
Who'd you have? You faded. You had Sergio, Watson, and who was your third one?
Abraham Answer.
Yeah. I really, it was close for me to take Answer as well, but I just that distance off the tee is what scared me a little bit. And with the potential rain coming in, we're going to talk about that in a minute. I love it. Let's go ahead and go Guru.
Well, let's have some fun, huh? So I think the winner could come from the 8Ks, but I think you'll make your money with the 7. So looking at the sort of the trends and the optimal and things like that. So I think you're going to need 2 7K guys to do really well. And so I would encourage you to have 2 7K guys in your lineup when you're building. That's all I'll say for now. The rest will come out tomorrow. So these plays are all kind of themed. Hopefully you could catch the theme. So number 1, I'm going to start with Paul Casey. Nick Faldo and Willett are the only Englishmen to actually win the Masters. Like, don't you think it's time maybe another Englishman wins the Masters? I mean, like, Danny Willett won. I mean, can't Paul Casey win too?
Well,
so
okay. Danny Willett is still under protest.
I know.
Protest.
I know. It's a bunch of crap. But I mean, considering where Danny Willett was, where he is now, I think Paul Casey's in a far better place. He's got six top 15s in his last 7 starts. He's got 4 top 15s in his last 6 trips here at Augusta. So that checks 2 boxes there. In the last 50 days, I always worry about Casey's putting, but the last 50 days, he's 16th in putting in the field. Then you take the 8th around the green, the 4th in approach, and it's 55th off the tee. So, if I'm taking the wonky drivers like Cam Smith and JT at the moment, I can't not take, Paul Casey. And, you put him in the model and he's 5th. Yeah, I'll take that all day long. I don't care if he finishes 20th. He's probably going to be a good play. And most of the time, you're going to need 2 probably chalky guys in your lineup, depending on how high he gets. Now, Casey could turn off to, end up in some disgustingly high place. I think, Spieth will probably end up over 25. I don't think the model's got him doing enough justice yet. I think, Casey's in the low 20s. I think you could play them both, provided you've got the right combo, behind it. But yeah, Casey's on my radar. I don't really care how high he gets. So I'm going to go Adam Scott as well. Now, the last 5 Masters where the winning score has been 10 under par or less. So Sergio was 9 under in 2017. He's a non-American. You get Willett at 5 under 2016, non-American. You've got Adam Scott in 2013, 9 under, non-American. And then you've got Trevor Immelman in 2008 at 8 under par, non-American. And the one in between is Bubba in 2014. Bubba could be non-American for all we know, but he's got his own little issues right now, and he's a lefty, and he's got the 2 wins. And with a name like Bubba, okay, maybe he's American anyway. I think my dad used to say that you either have a Bubba in your family or you know one. So, and I think that's true of most people. But
and if you don't know one, you are the one.
Exactly. That's the bumper sticker. But, last 50 rounds, he's 23rd in putting. Even with his wonky putting thing, 23rd is still pretty good. If he could maintain that, he'll be all right. He's 39th around the green. Or I should say last 50 days rather, but 39th around the green, which is still, up there. He's 40th in approach and, reference that driver switch, back a few weeks back. And so with a few more rounds in it, I'd like to think he could do a little better. He shows up 67th, which is a little scary. But again, if I'm not really worried about the driver, I'll take the class and I'll, remind people he won the Masters before. So there's 2. And then the third, Gary Player, Trevor Immelman.
You're taking Gary Player.
No,
That's
listen.
That's a
Gary
bold
Player,
pick.
Trevor Immelman, and Charles Schwartzel. The only South Africans to win. You know what? He was runner-up before. I'm going to take a stab with Louis Oosthuizen. I don't give a crap if he withdraws and his back just says F you on Saturday. I'm going to take him. He's got as far as the form goes, the more recent form is not the last couple of weeks in particular hasn't been great because he hasn't been playing. But I mean, he's the top 25, the 3 out of the 4 form categories I sub-broke it down to. Last 16 rounds, he's 16th in driving accuracy and 15th in greens and reg, which is actually pretty good. And then his last 50 days as a whole, he's 7th around the green, 7th in putting, which is pretty strong, 33rd in approach, and he's 52nd off the tee. Again, if I'm not really worried about that 50 to 65 range off the tee, he's going to get looped into everybody else. For 7,500 right in the middle, I'll take the class.
We talked about his putting last night. He can roll.
Yeah, he had been playing well before he withdrew that week too. I mean, he was I think I picked him that week.
Which is why he's a disgrace to the show, but we'll allow it.
Yeah. If there's a week to let him back into our good graces, it's this one. I'm
That's
gonna let
fair.
it ride.
That's fair. He can earn his respect back. It's just words aren't going to do it. It's going to have to be a play out there for him.
And Europe is no longer banning the show.
We're back in favor. Yeah, we're back in favor.
You guys think Danny Willett's like in a corner hanging out by himself at Champions Dinner right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's embarrassed. He's not even wearing the jacket. He's like, I know.
He's there with Ernie Els, and he's there with everybody else that just
he's like Tim. He's like Tim Tebow in the Heisman house.
Yeah, exactly.
So my fade is Harris English because that just seemed too easy, and I wasn't going to mess with anybody else because you could argue either way. But basically he won the Century. He didn't win anything last year. Qualified for the Century due to COVID. Peaked out of his mind and won, and hasn't done jack squat since.
Yeah, he's been disappointing. I ran it for a little while, and he just couldn't do it.
I did too because you wanted to be there.
Somewhat of the time. I mean, he was playing well, but yeah,
it tailed off. I mean, you look at the last 50. I mean, he's 72nd off the tee, which isn't really terrible. But then when you throw the 61st in putting, which is normally a strength, you take the 36th around the green, and you take the 47th in approach. Yeah, I'm good. I'll take a pass.
Good call on that one. Hey, Justin, give me 3 7Ks and a fade.
Okay, I'll give you. I've actually got a couple that everyone didn't have, which is
nice.
good.
Let's hear it, bud.
I like that.
I did have Paul Casey for all the reasons you said, and also just like the year Sergio and the year Willett won, he also won the Dubai Classic. So,
look at you deep diving. I like
maybe
it,
that's
man.
a little something for Casey.
Interesting.
My next play is Joaquin Neiman. He's 15th tee to green. He's 11th total in shots gained. Fourth in scoring average, 6th birdie average. I thought he's an 8K guy. I mean, I think he's.
I honestly felt the same way. I just went with the model, and that's why I took Scott instead. But
Yep.
I get it, man.
So I think Neiman. I think his ownership will be a bit lower than some of those other guys as well, which is something that I try to look for.
I bet Neiman, so he wasn't in my play.
Yeah.
Who's your other one?
All right, my other one is Max Homa. I think he hasn't played a ton lately, but his form has been, sharp, and I think he's his ball striking's good. He'd been putting pretty well. I'll take him as another guy that'll probably be pretty low owned, and as another option to the more popular guys.
Awesome. And your fade?
And my fade, I'm going to fade Justin Rose because I still have to give him
play.
Yeah.
Another Englishman.
As someone said, he was so golf sad. So I still haven't gotten over that.
And
yeah,
they threw the Q up next to Justin Rose's name, like he's questionable, like he's some dinged up NFL player in week 9, on your fantasy team. Yeah. So I don't know what the hell that even means.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so and Ryan comes in when he beat Finau in a playoff at Genesis, which is a comp course. Yep. Justin, why don't you give us a few 6K plays too?
Okay.
Where's some of your value picks? We're not doing any fades here.
Okay. Well, so I like Ryan Palmer a ton at 6,500. He's been money lately. And we had him winning. I had him winning last week. I thought he was a couple missed opportunities from being in the mix. Could have shot a lot lower. I like Ryan Palmer in the 6Ks. I like Kevin Kisner in the 6Ks at 6,700. He's been in form, and he's a Georgia guy.
I love Kis, man.
I'll roll with Kisner, and I'll give you a third guy, Siwoo Kim. He matches up really well in the comp courses. He's a big game hunter. He comes out at the big tournaments. So Siwoo is another guy who I've bet outright, and I'll have him. He's cheap enough where you can make a lot of the other guys fit. So
sure, I like it.
He's my third guy.
I like it. And Pro, what do you got in 6K value? What do you got in your value plays?
I'll touch on Ryan Palmer as well.
I can't believe his price.
Again, 6,500, 17th of the Players, 17th of Valero. He has a top 10 here in 2011, which is quite a while ago. But that does show some camaraderie with the golf course. I'm also going to go with a kind of surprise play, Brian Harmon. I like Brian Harmon's form. He was 30 Players, 8th at the American Express. He's been playing really good golf. This golf course, as we know, does set up for left-handers just because their ability on most of these holes to hit a cut, and it just makes everything easier. And then my third 6K play is going to be nobody other than Philip Mickelson. And I know that might come to a surprise, but listen, this guy's got 3 green jackets. This guy knows how to get around this place. I know the form's been somewhat sketchy, but he's showing some signs. I mean, honestly, if you look at it, outside of last week, there's been 2 weeks where he's looked pretty well. Pretty good. He had a 10 on a hole, which kind of he went from 2 over to 9 over, and it kind of ended his tournament. But his form hasn't been terrible. And again, everybody will say when you go down Magnolia Lane, it doesn't necessarily matter about form. These past champions, they'll tend to show up. I wouldn't be surprised if Phil showed up and was hanging around for a while. And I think at 6,600, you can't beat it.
I can't complain about that. I've got him in a few DFS lineups. He wasn't in my final player pool, but he is in a few of my outlier lineups, and so I definitely. I mean, he knows what he's doing out there. Rain, shine, wind, whatever. He knows what he's doing, and you're right. You take that blow up hole he had, and he's had a lot of good rounds in. So yeah, I like that play. Guru, you got some 6Ks?
Yeah. So I'm assuming you've got Corey Connors, so I'm just going to skip over that one for the moment.
I think all of us should have Corey Connors at $6,900, but he's going to be chalky.
Yeah, so I kind of left him because I figured somebody else would get it. So let me go where I'm going. So I've got Brian Harmon too. I mean, he's played the course before, so he's got the 44th in the missed cut, so he's got the little experience. His form is pretty ridiculous. He's got the lefty thing working. And then you look at the last, 50 days in terms of the form. So he's 6th in putting. That's going to help. He's 14th around the green. That's going to help. He's 14th off the tee. That's going to help. And, I'll deal with the 63rd in approach just because he's 6,800. So I'll give it a shot. Number 1. I've been on Kuchar for 2 weeks. I'm going to be on Kuchar for 3 weeks. That's
Let's
not going to
go. Yes.
He's an older guy, which is fine. He's played the course. He missed the cut in November, but you know what? I'm going to blame that on November. If you take November out of the equation, the last 10 years, 24, 27, 3, 8, 5, 45, 24, 4, 28, and 12. That's pretty gosh darn good. For his, 6,800, he can whip it around, get into the top 20. I don't care because that's good enough for me. And, he's been warming up the last couple weeks, and that seems to what he does this time of year. He gets hot late March, early April, plays the Masters okay, and it kind of carries in, and then he tails off when you get into the summer a little bit. But people still want to play him into May and June, and shame on them. That's a mistake I won't make this year for the third year in a row. I keep telling myself that. And then he can actually, you'll remind me, I'm sure. But he putts pretty well, and the baked into the model the different elevations in the complexes, and he was 16th at the comp courses I used that I thought had similar green complexes. So if he can just grind around the course, get it on the green, he's one of the few people that I could trust to you get it close and put it in the hole. And I don't expect him to win. I'd really be surprised if he finished top 10, but if he finishes between 10th and 20, I'll be pretty happy. I've actually got 4, so forgive me for a second. I'll go fast.
I've got a couple extras too. So
cool. So then I'm going to throw in Jason Kokrak. So you look at his last 50 days, he's 8th off the tee and 8th in putting. That's a pretty good start right there. He's 31st in approach and he's 51st around the green. I'll take a stab. He missed in November, but you know what? So did Kuchar. And, with a little more experience, the way he's played over the last, 18 months as a whole, I like to think maybe he learned something and, he'll get it going. And then you look at the putting, because that's the big thing I took him for. He's 7th in the last 36 rounds on bent, the way I looked at it. And then he was 18th based on the putting as far as the complex, kind of worked with Kuchar. And then he fits top 30 in 3 of the 4 categories the way I baked the form. So, yeah, it's worth the stab for the price. Then the deep dive to make my good friend, Mr. Justin Hanson, happy. I'm going to take a stab again on Gary Woodland. The one thing I've always said, it's better to be a week early than a week late, right? So you look at his last 50 days, he's 17th off the tee, which isn't really bad. He's 36th around the green. 36th in approach and 48th around the green, which isn't really terrible. Kind of puts you in the middle of the pack. The only thing that's a little sketch is the putter. But you know what? Everybody gets hot. Everybody gets cold. And for that kind of price, I'm going to take a stab because he's not a person a whole lot of people are going to be on. He's one of those under, I think 5% plays that people need to have. Mm-hmm. And he's on my radar and I'll probably use him.
And he says he's completely healthy.
He looked okay last week. He crept up the leaderboard, and
he's 25 pounds lighter than he was when he won the U.S. Open.
And he handled Pebble okay. So I'll take a shot here. I'm not expecting miracles, but if last week was the first week, maybe he finishes top 20 again. Maybe he shocks the world, finishes top 10. But yeah, I would take a piece for sure.
You've convinced me.
So Kuchar, Woodland, Kokrak, and Harmon. And besides the obvious,
because Kokrak can move it too. Kokrak, and there's no distance issue with Jason Kokrak. And you're right, he's kind of rejuvenated his game to be a kind of a guy that you can play quite often, and his numbers usually consistently, something you can work with.
Right. And I do have Corey Connors, of course, and I'll go ahead and officially write Corey Connors down as a value play. It's $6,900, and I'll just throw just a couple of stats out. In this field, last 24 rounds, he is 4th in approach. He is second in greens in regulation. He's
Massive.
fourth in par fives. He's top 29. He's 29th in scrambling. And so all the things that you really have to have at this course, he's got, and he's a $6,900 player. He will be chalky, but you know what? At that price point, he's going to be in a lot of my lineups. He has to be, because I think he's going to provide the most value for that price point. I also got Lanto Griffin in there. And I like Lanto because he's top 12 in approach. He's top 11 in driving distance. He's 16th in greens in regulation, and he's 32nd in par 5 scoring. Scrambling's in the middle of the pack, but other than that, he's, the only thing that makes me nervous about him is his first track. It's his first time. And so, but he's $6,400. And one of the guys who just won a tournament, and he was one of our outrights just a few weeks back, and he's in really good form, and that's Matt Jones, and he's almost a bottom price at $6,300. Matt Jones is 39th in approach. He's 13th in driving distance, okay? He's 30th in greens and regulation. He's 22nd in par 5 scoring, and he's 34th in scrambling. Those are all strong numbers for a guy that's almost minimum wage. And so, and he's proven that he can be ice in his veins on a Sunday, right? And
Absolutely.
So I really like Matt Jones there. And the only other one I have here is that hasn't been talked about. I got Harmon as well. Is Matt Wallace. I really liked what he showed last week. Now he did kind of falter a little bit with the putter on Sunday, but he was pretty solid. But even in this field, he's top 10 in both approach and par 5 scoring. 9th in each of those. He's 24th in greens and regulation. He's 33rd in driving distance. And so he's got all the tools to do well. And once again, we're talking about a $6,300 player, a $6,400 player, not just 69. And so those are the guys. Lanto Griffin, Wallace, and Jones are all below 6,400 or below. I'm going to have those guys in my player pool. And of course, I have Connors and Harmon, who are a little bit higher up. But and I also, of course, have Palmer. But those are some of the value plays, and I think there's a lot of really good value plays this week in that 6K range that are going to be relevant on Sunday, and so pretty excited about that. But anyhow, let's go straight to Kevin goes, Hammer just reading the chat. I'm not reading the chat. I'm actually looking at my notes, and so Lanto played last year. Okay, I apologize for that. I thought Lanto did not play last year. There was somebody else I was thinking about. Anyway, let's jump into optimal lineup, and then we'll finish up with the outrights. That's your cue, Guru.
That is my cue. I had to remember it again.
I've got it up on the screen. This is our optimal lineup, and if you guys don't know, optimal lineup is the DFS lineup that the model projects for the top 6 players. And so go ahead, Guru.
It spit out pretty well. It's probably I was kidding. It's probably the classiest group of 6 I've ever seen the model spit out. So I'm pretty excited just to play it because of the names. So number 1 in the model was Justin Thomas. He's 10,600 and he showed up in the optimal. Number 3 in the model was Jordan Spieth. He was 9,400. He showed up in the optimal. Paul Casey was 7,700, and he's number 5 in the model. He also showed up. Adam Scott was 18th in the model. He is 7,600. He showed up. Jason Day was 15th in the model. He's 7,500, and he showed up. And it rounded out with Corey Connors, who was 20th in the model, and he's 6,900. So that is a total salary used of $49,700, which is a good thing. You don't want to quite spend the full 50, but most of the Masters lineups have been, and most of the major tourneys usually spend a good chunk of it. So that's a pretty good spot.
Yep.
And it shows up at roughly 546.8 points. It's kind of what we project. And that's a pretty good number. I mean, obviously that's just, the way I worked it, but I think it's a good total. I think it'll hold up pretty well. And, if there's a piece of that 6 you don't like, I think you could easily take out one guy and substitute somebody else, but I think it's a good starting point for a core. But, you've got the course history, you've got the forum, you've got the stats, you've got it's a good, I don't think you have some guys that'll be owned, but you have some guys that won't be owned. I mean, it brings a lot of good stuff to the table. And, if you're stuck for a lineup or you just have an extra dollar to spend, I think it's a good way to take a stab at, if you put it in the right tourney, and hopefully you can make some money back and then some.
The only guy in that lineup I would substitute is probably going to be Day. I'm just not a huge fan of Day, and I love what the model likes about him, and so I will have some Day in there. But if I had to make a move, I would like all those plays, but I might make a move there.
But with 7,500 and with a $300 swing, so that gives you options between 72 and 78, if you want to keep it close, or you could even go lower and find a 6K guy. So, I mean, you've got a bunch of different ways you could go for sure. So I think it helps. And I
can put a guy like Neiman in there, which I like better.
Right, real close. Neiman and Louis, pretty much same price range.
Right.
And the model likes them all kind of about in the same range. So, pick your poison. But, if you want to play a couple, use this and just start cascading the guys around. Find the guy you don't like and shuffle in and shuffle out a couple different ones. And hopefully you hit with one.
All right. Well, that brings us to our outrights. And for the first time, we actually have our consensus outrights out tonight. We're still going to put them on Twitter tomorrow with our personal outrights as well. And so that'll be published and posted. But for right now, our outrights are Rahm. We talked about why he's 12.5 to 1. Thomas 12.5 to 1. There are top two guys, and they're double digits, and so we'll take them. And then we went with Casey at 35, Berger at 35, and then Fitzpatrick at 40. We threw some long shots in there. Now I will say that the long shot on Sergio Garcia has moved to 45. It was 60 when I got him. And so we got Garcia at 60. But then if you go to DraftKings right now, you can get Palmer for 175 to 1. Even if you put $5 on it, that's a big hit, 175 to 1. I think he's by far the best name within 30 players in that range at that price. And so he's a super long shot, but 175 to 1. I'm not turning that down for any. I'll take every book I can get at that price. So, what do you guys think about these outrights? And I know it was really tough, and it was a coin flip between Spieth, and the reason it was because Spieth also, like Garcia, moved a whole lot. I got Spieth at 33, but now he's down to 11, and it makes it hard for me to bet a guy at 11 to 1 as an outright. I mean, it was hard to go 12.5, but 12.5 was much more easy to digest than an 11. So what do you guys think? Thoughts on that?
I'd like to think one of them hit. I think they're all pretty good, but I'm curious to see what the rest of the team has. Cause usually one of us or more than one of us comes up with an interesting name that, at a pretty good price, that a different perspective that you might not have thought. So definitely check out Twitter tomorrow and see what the rest of the group has to offer.
Yep. Agreed.
Do you want to talk some props really fast, or am I the only one that's got some props? I'll make it quick if I'm the only one.
You're the only one.
I actually don't.
I did a crazy 6-leg parlay. I won't talk about that, but it's a crazy one. But I will be doing straight forecast. But yeah, let's hear some props before we cut out.
So I'll dedicate this to the Hammerconda of since he seems to be the prop master extraordinaire. But
he is good.
I'm just going to go down some random ones that caught my eye. So Harris English to make the cut. That was a big fat glass of no. I think that was plus 200. So that seemed like a no-brainer to me. It's kind of scary to say yes to this one just because he's right on that line, but I like the odds, and he kind of was a little higher on the model than I expected, but again, he's right kind of on the line. But I'm going to take Mike Weir as a yes.
Oh, well, yes to what?
To make the cut.
Holy shit. What are the odds on that?
I had that
at 4 million to 1.
That was just a plus 200. I'm not going to put I don't have a whole lot down on it, but I was like, what? I'm going to take a stab. He was right there, and the fact that he was over, 2, I was like, I'm going to take a shot. Everybody else, the plus minus wasn't really that great. So then Spieth is really short, but when you start looking at some of the prop categories, you can find some where the money seems a little better. So top pass champ category, I'll take Spieth at plus 250 all day long, and I did. That seemed like a no-brainer to me because he doesn't have to win; he just has to beat out, DJ and Patrick Reid and stuff like that. And I don't care where they finish as long as they finish in the top 10 and Spieth is slightly ahead. I'll cash on that bet.
I like that.
So the one I've seen out there a lot, and I went the other way, is top lefty. Everybody wants to kind of, you want to chase, you go with, Robert McIntyre, and, you want to go sentimental and you take Phil, but I have to take Brian Harmon. He's just in too damn good a form, and I think he makes some sense. So plus 225, made sense to me when I took it. Then because I took him there and because I like to gamble a little bit. So then you drift over to the top Georgia Bulldog, and then basically you're splitting hairs between, Harmon and, Brendan Todd. And then, I'm going to go Kevin Kisner at plus 450. Like that just seemed like a no brainer to me. Again, I don't care where, Kisner finishes just to cash. He just has to fish slightly ahead of Brian Harmon. And I'll probably have some Kisner in DK. And if he finishes 15th and Brian Harmon finishes 16th, I don't care. It's going to make me look like a genius either way. So both of them there. Then you get to the top Australian.
You don't need that to make you look like a genius.
Well, no, I need some tickets to make me look like a genius, or any people to say, hey, you know what? I took your thing, posted on Twitter, and then I'll look like a genius by default because people followed my lead. So top Australian, Cam Smith looked really good up there, but when I saw that Adam Scott was plus 335, that just seemed like a no-brainer to me too. I had to take a piece of that. Top Asian, just because I'm not really sold.
Matt Jones is going to win the top Australian.
Yeah, I thought about that too, but
what's he? It's like plus 800.
No, I think he was higher up. He was like 250 or 270 or something. Scott was further back, or maybe it was 360, 380. It was really close, and Scott seemed like the better money. Yeah. Top Asian, just because I'm not messing with Sanjay An. The next one down was Decky, so I'll take it. Plus 175 seemed okay. Now the two that I could sort of back up a little bit that you may want to chase. So winner in final first tee group round 4. So I'll take the no at plus 185. So I'm not sure what the weather will be like on the weekend. I think there'll be some chaos, but I think the guy might come off the pace. And the reason I say that is because the last 10 years, 3 of the 10 years, the guy's been ahead. 2 of the 10 years, the eventual winner's been tied, but 5 of the 10 years, the guy's been off the pace. So there's kind of a precedent there that the guy could slightly be behind. He may only be one shot back, and he still may end up in the group if it's not really a clustered leaderboard. But I'm just going to assume maybe he's in the second to last group, something like that, and he shoots something ridiculous, makes that Sunday charge that we all want to see. So I'll take the plus 185 on no. And then the one that I like the most actually was the winning margin. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. I knew I was close. Winning margin. So I'll go with the 2 strokes. So the 2-stroke margin was plus 350. 6 of the last 11 years, the winner won by 2 strokes or more. And there was a couple years it was 2 outright. If I miss, I think I missed because it's 3. It could be a little closer if the weekend is a little more chaotic than I anticipate. But plus 350 seemed like a good stab. And, for the 2 shots, I'm more comfortable with that just in case it is a little closer. But yeah. So final group, winning margin. Asian, Australian, lefty, Georgia Bulldog, past champ, and then the English, and we're no and yes on the cuts. And then I'll stick the first round leaders out tomorrow on Twitter, and then whatever magical group parlay I come up with, and I'm sure there'll be a good one. I'll tag that on my Twitter post too. But they're 9 to keep you going on top of the outrights that my personal ones I'll put out, but hopefully the group ones get you going tonight, and check back tomorrow and see what the rest of the group does.
Absolutely, and the rest of the group is going to be putting a lot of fun stuff on Twitter tomorrow and sharing a whole lot of things. It's going to be so much fun. Thursday is going to be epic. Once again, guys, we're going to get out of here, but we will be back Thursday night. I'm going to ask you one more time, if you please, can subscribe, win, leave a comment. Who's going to win on the YouTube channel? And if they win, you win. We're trying to build that momentum, and we need another big winner. And right now, let's just go get them on there. Go for it, guys. It takes you 5 seconds to type in, Robert McIntyre. And so get that done. And don't forget, go to the DraftKings lobby, type in closest to the win, and I will put a link on my Twitter tomorrow. And so I will tweet a link to the contest. We want to fill this contest up and see who beats who. And so it's a lot of fun to do head-to-head against us. And it'll be great to kick off that league with the Masters. And so other than that, guys, any final thoughts?
Hashtag Lee Hodges 22.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, hey, great show. Looking forward to tomorrow. Looking forward to Thursday night show. Hopefully we'll have the whole gang on that as well. And we'll be able to wrap up some things and talk about showdowns and all that good stuff. So anyway, from this point on, peace on out, guys.
Did you get all that? If not, make sure you head over to Hammercast.com, subscribe, and join the Hammer Nation. Until next time, keep grinding.